next thing that I watched this week, which was quite entertaining for me, was the movement of Mahama, president of Ghana, into Zambia. And when he arrived there, he blessed my heart. What we have been talking about is beginning to happen in our lifetime. The signing of a treaty between Zambia and Ghana to open up a borderless Africa. Free visa, free movement of Zambians into Ghana and Ghanaians into Zambia. I was just wondering while I was sitting watching that beautiful piece of news, how many countries did Mahama fly over to get to Zambia? And what are the presidents of those countries thinking? What are they saying? What are we saying? When we begin to see other presidents making such positive moves to create the Africa that we want, by no means, I can tell you now, that Zambians will pack up their bags and go and live in Ghana. Or Ghanaians will pack up their bags and go and live in Zambia. They love their country. But they begin to do free movement of people, opening up new forms of business. And while I'm there, I had to giggle and laugh a little bit, because then I saw Zambians picking up a fight on social media of the fugu cloth and laughing, of course, with a certain amount of ignorance on the blouses that President Mahama was putting on. That's why they call it the blouse. And I was in Zambia a few months ago, and I've seen the Luvinda Tongo celebrations, where also Zambian men are putting on skirts. And maybe one of the Zambians or one of the Ghanaians must create a Mahama Hakainde meeting of nations, and create a clothing range, which has the top part being the Ghanaian blouse, and the bottom part being the Lozi skirt. I would love to see how that looks as a beautiful form of integration, where nations are beginning to talk and we are finding each other and celebrating our culture, but again using our art forms as a new way of interpreting the relationships that we are now experiencing. No culture is homogeneous. We diversify, we grow, we integrate, we find each other, we celebrate each other, we don't fight each other. So yes, the Zambians had to wake up in the morning and discover for themselves how Ghanaians dress. But that's not all that Ghana has. Ghana has food. Ghana has kente clothes. Ghana has shea butter. Ghana has cassava. Ghana has gold. The question is, what is it that Zambians can begin to learn from the Ghanaians? And similarly so, what is it that the Ghanaians can begin to learn from the Zambians? And this for me culminates into us integrating as Africans, our sports, our banks, our insurance, food sharing, fashion sharing, medicine sharing, university lectures sharing. Now it's easy for professors in Zambia, professors in Ghana, educationists to begin to move between these countries, because the visa requirements are now easy. The exchange of information and knowledge becomes much, much more friendly. And this is the Africa that we are talking about, where we begin to find each other as Africans and we build for ourselves a new narrative, a narrative of development, a narrative of unity, a narrative of love, a narrative of learning, a narrative of sharing, growing, together, building the Africa that we want. That's what we are talking about. We're not talking about marginalization, subtracting each other, laughing at each other, scorning each other. Nywe, 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 nywe. My culture is better than yours. My culture is better than yours. My blouse is better than your skirt. This is the Africa that we are talking about, where we begin to find each other as Africans and we build for ourselves a new narrative. A narrative of development, a narrative of unity, a narrative of love, a narrative of learning, a narrative of sharing, growing together, building the Africa that we want. That's what we are talking about. We're not talking about marginalization, subtracting each other, laughing at each other, scorning each other. Nywe, 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 nywe. My culture is better than yours. My culture is better than yours. My blouse is better than your skirt. My skirt is better than your skin. My skin is what? That is primitive. But this whole primitive, it's not primitive. It's prime active. Primitive is native. Native excellence. What is primitive is prime to the indigenous people. And so the word primitive is not as derogative. You are dealing with the prime, the core of that community. And if we can begin to look at each other as prime mates in our nativeness, prime native, prime natives are the primitive. No, it's not primitive. It's prime, cream, top natives, undiluted, uncontaminated natives. That's what the white people are calling us, primitive. We are not primitive. We are prime natives. Yes, I am a prime native. The hybrid of nativeness has been put into primitiveness. Primitiveness is not derogative. Primitiveness is actually positive. You are a prime native. I wish someone also can create a t-shirt for us. Primitive. And at the bottom you write prime natives. I'll buy that t-shirt on any day and put it on without fear. And when we stop laughing, scorning, because this whole thing of thinking I'm better than is a Western hegemony. We have never as Africans scorned each other on the basis of our ethnicity. Because all our tribes, though tribes is more colonial, all our nations, all our clans shared borders with each other. And those that live on the borders of one nation begin to integrate with the other nation. And where the other nation stops, it integrates with the other nation. So at the end of the day, if you are moving from Cape to Cairo, you can never draw a line where one nation stops and another nation begins. We grow into each other to form this beautiful tapestry, this beautiful cloth of African nations, African cultures, African music, art and celebration, and very interesting. And lastly, I was excited to note the speech by the interview rather, which happened in Europe, in Dubai, not Europe but in Dubai, when President Emerson Mnangagwa was being interviewed by a semi-literate white man who wanted to blackmail the president for taking land. I'm not here to discuss how the land in Zimbabwe has been distributed. That's for another day. That's for us to talk when we are by ourselves. But to the international community, we don't apologize for taking land. And wow, what do you think about Venezuela? And the president said Venezuela is very far from here. We are also still wondering what to do. And that was a stroke of genius. Stroke of genius to the international community to show diplomacy and not create unnecessary wars. But I think this debate has been put to rest. that African land belongs to Africans. And we cannot be held ransom for taking land. And as I've always said, no democracy can be spoken on stolen land. National anthems and flags are not a sign of independence. Without means of production, without land, ownership of it, and correct investments for food sustainability and spirituality cannot happen without land. Education cannot happen without land. Spirituality and health cannot happen without land. Business and economics cannot happen without land. Governance cannot happen without land. Sports and recreation cannot happen without land. Therefore, on all the 7 sources of power, the common denominator, African child, understand this, the common denominator to power is land. And next to land, sovereignty, self-actualization, self-determination. That's what freedom looks like if you come to Farmers of Thought. With those few words, I thought I'd share some few things with you to keep you thinking in the course of the week. We're here to develop ourselves. And while we are developing ourselves, we don't devalue our traditions and devalue our culture. With those few words, I thank you all and wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. Don't do what I would do, but if you do it better. I passed a comment once when I said, he who masters the 7 rings will rule the world. He who masters the 7 rings will rule the world. I want to recommend that all of you find your copy of the book, African Questions and African Solutions, where I clearly outline these 7 principles: governance, agriculture, education, business and economics, sports and recreation and entertainment, health and technology, and spirituality. If you look at spirituality, that's where the churches are. Big evangelical churches, Pentecostal churches. That's where religion is. Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, all forms of spirituality. It's a big business. It's a center of power. Those that have access and knowledge on spirituality can command the public opinion, influence public perception, and religious people have become a source of power within the community. So those who are looking for developing careers, you can look at spirituality as a business unit on its own. Some of the most moneyed people, the richest people around the world are religious people and religious leaders. I'm not saying what they're doing is right or what they're doing is wrong. But take note that spirituality is actually a pillar of power. Number 2, those who are into health and technology also are calling on power. One of the biggest deals ever made in Africa was during the times of COVID, where South Africa signed a 500 billion deal on drugs. This is where doctors are. This is where pharmaceutical companies are. This is where traditional healers are. And again, some of the richest people in the world are those that are majoring in pharmaceuticals. Izangoma, Ninyanga, pharmaceuticals and doctors, specialists making money out of that. So health is wealth. Without good health, even the richest man is poor. The whole idea of understanding the strongholds of power is so that we as Africans, we should position ourselves in these fraternities, not only as employees, but as champions who understand how global powers move, and you position yourself in your career so that you can move over from just being a career person to becoming a business owner, to becoming an IP owner, until we can begin to talk about the Bill Gates of this world, who are masters of technology, the Bezos of this world, who have managed to master Google and Amazons and create technology and create new business models. The Elon Musks of this world, they've just picked up one element, and that is the technology element. So I'm giving you the template as Africans, a full template. So please just sit up tight and be patient with me. Let me unpack for you as Africans, how do you become powerful? Politics is cheap. Real power is he who masters these 7 pillars will be able to rule the world. Spirituality is number 1. Health and technology, IT, cryptocurrencies, all AI. On another day, I'll come and talk about AI, or the whole AI industry, and health becoming one of the technologies that is actually a lucrative source of power. I'm working downwards. Number 3 will be those that have gone into sports, recreation, entertainment. This includes movies, music, sports, filmmaking, name it. This is also powerful. We managed to see this last month what iSpeed can do as an entertainer, that is able to attract millions of people globally. And what he says and what he experiences can actually change, transform the perception of a global audience. I saw some videos, Americans and Europeans crying when they saw what he saw, and to have their mindset shifted and changed. The Messis of this world, the Ronaldos of this world, the Morgan Freemans of this world, the Michael Jacksons of this world, and the amount of power that entertainment, sports, and recreation can create. And this is not entertainment. You enter and you attain. So sports, recreation, entertainment is another source of power. Spirituality, health and technology, sports and recreation. You move over downwards to number 4, which is business and economics. This is where people are really doing business, and business is a source of power. That's where you find the Dangotes of this world, the Mutsepes of this world, the Oppenheimers of this world, the Ruperts of this world, the Black Rocks, the Rothschilds, the banks, who actually are in control of the entire business value chain. And they have become powerful because with money, you can buy anything. You can buy politics, you can buy people, you can buy countries, you can buy allegiance, you can buy patronage. You can actually be able to use money as a source of power. So there is spiritual power, there is health and technology power, sports and recreation power. Even now, we're using Zuckerberg here. This is sports, recreation, entertainment. Zuckerberg has been able to convert entertainment into power, where information dissemination, management of that information can actually be driven through the window of sports, recreation, and entertainment. Then business and economics. These are the owners of estates, banks, insurance companies, investments, and through money, people have been able to yield certain amount of power around the whole world. The Donald Trumps of this world are using their business to run the politics. And then you come to education. It's another source of power, where the making of books, the dissemination of education, Harvard University, Cambridge University, Massachusetts, Zimbabwe, Vets University, UB, private enterprises. To run universities is big business, big business. Education is big business. We can talk about curriculum and other things on another day. but to establish an environment where education and information is being disseminated. It's a big source of power, because those then become authorities who actually are responsible for training, developing, distributing their opinions around the whole value chain of societal construct. Next to that is agriculture. Agriculture is a big source of business. The Monsantos, we are all eating 3 meals a day. Those of you who are on to eating 3 meals a day, I do one. Big business. Food is big business. Restaurants, chain shops, Kentucky's, McDonald's, Seattle Coffees, Nando's, Pick and Pays, Checkers, Walmart's of this world. They are into the food business. And the food business is getting from agriculture into food. And those who get into food can also wield a great amount of power. And ultimately, you have governance. Governance is politics, where sits socialism, capitalism, feudalism, democracy, with all have various aspects of interpretation of how to govern societies. And those that have mastered politics are also powerful. So here are the 7 forms of power. Governance power, agricultural power, food power, business and economics power, education power, sports and recreation power, health and technology power, ultimately spiritual power. Now, when you begin to develop people, we need to develop not just people. We need powerful people. And the Epstein files have showed us how sports and recreation power can actually influence and manage political power and have a direct impact into business power. And this for me was quite fascinating as I'm watching, being the watcher. And I look at politicians who are in the bags of economists, and as and when the economic world wants to pull some plugs, politics looks like a puppy in the hands of entertainment. Now a whole president is being held ransom for what he was doing in his private life. That was one of the key things that developed this week when I was looking the Epstein files.
Thank you, Africa.